in the voice of Priyanka Chopra. Hi everyone, you know we live in a world where image often walks into the room before we do. Where first impressions are judged by what we wear, how we look, and how well we fit into someone else's idea of polished. And let's be honest, I love fashion. I love beauty. I love stepping into my power with presence. But there's something I've learned through all the lights, cameras, and global stages. Charm can capture attention, but it's your mind that earns respect. In this world of constant appearances, we need to remind ourselves and each other that real leadership doesn't come from a mirror. It comes from vision, from courage, from clarity. It comes from using your voice, not just your look, to create change. Today I want to talk to you about something that I believe every woman, every leader, every dreamer needs to hear. It's time to lead with your mind, not just your mirror. Let's get into it. Let's be honest for a second, we live in a world obsessed with appearances. From magazine covers to Instagram filters, from red carpets to reels, we're constantly surrounded by ideals of beauty that are narrow, airbrushed, and often unattainable. As a woman who's worked in the fashion, film, and entertainment industry for most of her life, I've seen it all. I've worn the gowns, walked the runways, sat through hours of makeup, and had my looks analyzed and judged far more than my words. But here's the truth I want to scream from the rooftops: beauty fades. It always does. It changes with time, with age, with life. And that's not a sad thing, it's just reality. Our bodies evolve, our skin transforms, and our features shift as we move through the beautiful journey of life. Trying to hold on to some fixed version of beauty is like trying to hold water in your hands. It slips away, no matter how tightly you grip it. What doesn't fade though is your mind, your intellect. Your capacity to think, to learn, to evolve, to challenge, to create. That is where real power lies, not in your reflection, but in your perspective. As a young girl, growing up in a small town in India, I didn't always feel beautiful in the conventional sense. But I was curious. I asked questions, I read books, I challenged ideas. I was fascinated by people, by stories, by possibilities. That hunger to know more, to understand the world, to grow, that became my anchor. And that's what I want every girl, every woman, every person to embrace. Nurture your mind like it's your most prized possession, because it is. Looks can open a door maybe, but it's your mind that keeps you in the room. It's your ideas that earn you respect. It's your ability to solve problems, lead teams, innovate, communicate, and think that truly makes you unforgettable. And you know what's really beautiful? A sharp mind with a sense of humor, a fierce opinion, and the courage to speak it. I've seen it time and again, women reduced to ornaments, their value calculated by the symmetry of their faces or the size of their waistlines. But the women I admire most, they're not just pretty, they're powerful. They read, they question, they stand their ground. They make moves, they build businesses, they break barriers, they own their seat at the table, or they create a whole new table. Intelligence isn't just about books or degrees either. It's about emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, social awareness. It's about the ability to listen deeply, to think critically, to lead with empathy. That kind of brilliance lights up a room in ways makeup never can. And no, this doesn't mean you have to abandon beauty. I love dressing up. I love fashion and glam. It's fun, it's expressive, and it makes me feel confident. But I never let it define me. My lipstick doesn't speak louder than my logic. My heels don't carry more weight than my thoughts. I am more than what I wear. And so are you. So invest in your mind the way the world tells you to invest in your looks. Feed it with knowledge. Exercise it with curiosity. Challenge it with new ideas. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, not just flatter you. Take risks, fail, learn, and grow. Because while beauty may be admired, intelligence is respected. And that respect, that's long-lasting, that's transformative. Let the world see your face, yes, but let them remember your mind. Because in the end, when the lights go down and the cameras stop clicking, what remains isn't the shimmer on your skin, it's the strength of your vision, the clarity of your thoughts, and the depth of your character. So grow that, nurture that. Own that. You're not just a face, you're a force. Let me just say this straight, smart is the new sexy. We live in a time where beauty is everywhere, on billboards, on screens, on perfectly curated social media pages. But amidst all that glitter, what really turns heads? What makes people pause, listen, and remember you is a sharp, unapologetic, beautifully active mind. Growing up, I heard people say, "Oh, she's so pretty, she's going to do well." And yes, beauty can open some doors. But you know what opens every door? Brains, brilliance, bold thinking. That's what makes a lasting impact. Beauty might get attention, but intelligence, that earns respect. We need to rewrite the narrative that says women can either be attractive or intelligent. No, we can be both, we are both. But let's not make intelligence an accessory. Let it be the main character. Let it be the reason people remember your name long after the conversation is over. I've walked into rooms full of people who had already formed an opinion of force on my looks or my career. But I've always known that once I opened my mouth, once I shared a strong idea, a perspective they didn't expect, the tone changed. Their gaze shifted from the surface to the substance. And that's what I want to talk about today. Smart is stunning. Confidence is magnetic, and confidence comes from knowledge, from being prepared, from owning your story, from knowing what you stand for. When you're informed, when you've done the work, when you think deeply and express clearly, your aura changes. You command respect, not because you demand it, but because you deserve it. Intelligence has a glow of its own. It's that sparkle in your eyes when you're passionate about something. It's the fire in your voice when you stand up for what's right. It's the grace with which you respond to ignorance with facts, clarity, and strength. You want to walk into a room and truly own it. Show up with your mind switched on. Don't just be decorative, be dynamic. Be the one who asks the right questions, who offers fresh ideas, who solves problems others haven't even noticed yet. Because here's the truth. Looks might start the conversation, but it's your intellect that keeps it going. That's the part people quote. That's the part that leaves a legacy. I've had the privilege of meeting some of the most inspiring women in the world: scientists, artists, entrepreneurs, activists. And the one thing they all have in common? They're sharp. They're clear. They think deeply and speak powerfully. Their intelligence lights up the room more than any spotlight ever could. And the best part? Intelligence is not exclusive. It's not something you're either born with or not. It's something you grow. You train it like a muscle. You feed it through books, conversations, experiences, and failures. Every time you challenge yourself to think bigger, to go deeper, to learn more, you become more powerful. Now, don't get me wrong. I love glamour. I love expressing myself through fashion, beauty, art. I always have. But I've never let the external be a mask. It's an extension of me, not the definition of me. And I believe that's what we need to teach every young girl. That she is allowed to be beautiful. But she is also expected to be smart, to be bold, to be curious, to be limitless. Let's stop praising silence and start celebrating speech. Let's stop teaching girls to be agreeable and start teaching them to be articulate. Let's stop saying she's pretty and smart like it's a surprise. No, she's smart, and that's stunning. When you walk into a room, don't just wonder if you look good. Ask yourself, hey, am I prepared? Do I have something to say? Can I add value here? That's the mindset that shifts your presence from attractive to unforgettable. So yes, do your hair, rock your outfit, own your look, but more importantly, own your thoughts. Own your voice. Lead with your mind. Because in a world that often wants women to be seen and not heard, let's be both seen, heard, and absolutely respected. Smart is stunning, darling. Don't ever forget that. Let's talk legacy. Because when the lights dim, the applause bin, the cameras stop rolling. What stays behind? What really lasts? It's not the perfect pose on the red carpet or the number of followers on your feed. It's not how good you looked in a magazine or what dress you wore at that event 5 years ago. Those things, they're fleeting, momentary, beautiful show but temporary. What truly lasts is what you build with your mind, what you create with your vision, what you leave behind with your intellect. Brains build legacies. And that's a truth I've lived, seen, and deeply believe in. I've spent over 2 decades in front of the camera. From Bollywood to Hollywood, I've had the privilege of playing characters, walking carpets, accepting awards. But you know what I'm most proud of? It's not the roles I've played, it's the decisions I've made behind the scenes. It's the risks I've taken, the businesses I've started, the scripts I've produced, the voices I've amplified. Because while people may first see the image, I make sure they remember the impact. Success, real success, comes from intellect, not just image, from using your brain as your most valuable asset. From not just being in the spotlight, but knowing what to do with that spotlight. How to use it. Who to shine it on. That's leadership. That's legacy. We often live in a culture that celebrates the now, the trending, the viral, the surface. But the women I look up to, they weren't just trendsetters. They were trailblazers. They didn't just look the part, they redefined the part. They changed conversations. They shifted norms. They created movements. And they did it not by being the most glamorous in the room, but by being the smartest, most strategic, the most resilient. Innovation doesn't come from playing it safe. It comes from thinking differently. From asking hard questions. From being curious enough to keep learning and bold enough to keep unlearning. Whether you're building a business, a brand, a community, or a life, your brain is your foundation. Your sharpness, your creativity, your ideas, that's where the magic begins. And let's be clear, you can't fake substance. You can have all the glam in the world, but if you don't know what you stand for, if you don't understand your worth, if you can't back your voice with knowledge, you'll always feel like an imposter in your own success. I've sat in boardrooms where I was the only woman, the only person of color, the only one without a business degree. But I brought my brain to the table, my experience, my instincts, my questions. And that earned me not just a seat, but a voice. Because when you speak with intention, when you think with depth, people listen. You don't have to be loud to be powerful, but you do have to be clear. It's your intellect that helps you navigate complexity, handle criticism, take feedback, and grow. It's your mind that builds strategy, adapts to change, and thinks 5 steps ahead. And that's how you build not just success, but sustainable success. The kind that doesn't vanish with a trend, but stands tall over time. And here's the beautiful part: intelligence is something you build. It's not fixed. It's not a privilege of the few. It's available to anyone willing to put in the work. Read more, listen better, stay curious, be open, ask why a little more often, fail with grace and come back stronger. That's how legacies are built. Not in the spotlight, but in the moments when no one is watching. When you're learning, growing, stretching your mind beyond limits, that's the stuff that lasts. So yes, take pride in your appearance, celebrate your beauty, express yourself. Be fierce, be stylish, be unapologetic, but don't let that be your whole story. Let your mind be your masterpiece. Because when we're gone, we won't be remembered for how we looked in a selfie. We'll be remembered for what we created, what we stood for, how we moved people, what we changed. Brains build legacies, so build yours with boldness, with brilliance, with purpose. And know this: you are not just here to be admired. You are here to make impact. Let your image be a reflection of your mind, not a distraction from it. That's the kind of beauty that never fades. You know, people often ask me, Priyanka, how are you always so confident? They see the poise, the posture, the red carpet walks, the speeches, the interviews. And yes, confidence is a part of who I am today, but let me tell you something real. I wasn't born confident. What I was born with was curiosity. I was born with questions, with insecurities, with dreams way bigger than the world told me I could handle. And for a long time, I thought confidence meant being loud, being bold, being noticed. But I've learned confidence isn't about volume. It's about clarity. Confidence is born from clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you want, and what you will not settle for. When you know your worth not in theory, but deep in your bones, you stop waiting for permission to show up. You stop shrinking. You stop apologizing for taking up space. And when you're clear about your vision, what you're working toward, what you believe in, where you're headed, that's when your steps become purposeful. That's when your presence starts speaking before you even say a word. I've walked into rooms where I didn't know a single person, where I didn't have the right last name, or the right accent, or the same experience. And yet I held my head high, not because I knew everything, but because I knew myself. I knew why I was there. I knew what I brought to the table. That's clarity. And that clarity, that's where real confidence lives. See, we often mistake confidence for ego. But confidence isn't thinking you're better than everyone else. It's knowing you don't have to be. It's knowing your journey is valid, your story matters, and your voice deserves to be heard. And let me be honest, there were times in my life where I doubted all of that. Where I questioned my path. From being a young girl in Barely to becoming Miss World, then starting over in Hollywood, I've had moments of deep fear and uncertainty. But every time I've returned to clarity about my purpose, about my value, I've risen stronger. Because when you don't know who you are, the world will try to define it for you. And that's dangerous. That's how we end up chasing perfection instead of progress. That's how we lose ourselves trying to fit in, trying to impress, trying to keep up. But when you're grounded in who you are and where you're going, you stop needing validation. You become your own compass. You listen more to your own intuition than to outside noise. That's the kind of confidence that doesn't just shine, it radiates. It becomes magnetic. You attract better people, better opportunities, because people can sense it when you walk into a room and you're not pretending. You're not performing, you're just present, powerful and clear. And here's the truth: clarity takes work. It's not something you wake up with one day. It's something you build through reflection, through failure, through making decisions that scare you and excite you at the same time. It means asking yourself tough questions. Who am I outside of other people's expectations? What lights me up? What am I not willing to compromise anymore? Once you get clear on those things, everything changes. Your boundaries become stronger, your goals become sharper, your path becomes brighter. And that's when confidence becomes effortless. Not loud, not arrogant, just solid. So if you're feeling lost or unsure right now, don't chase confidence, chase clarity. Get to know yourself, respect yourself, define your own value before the world tries to define it for you. Because the most unshakable kind of confidence doesn't come from titles or trophies or praise. It comes from looking in the mirror and saying, I know who I am. I know what I'm here to do. And I'm ready. You don't need to prove yourself, you just need to own yourself. Confidence is born from clarity. And once you have that truly, deeply, you'll walk through any door, any challenge, any chapter of your life with your head high, your feet grounded, and your soul on fire. And believe me, the world will feel your presence. Let's set the record straight, once and for all. Being beautiful does not mean being less intelligent. And being intelligent doesn't mean you need to dull your shine. Women don't have to choose between being smart or stunning. We can be both. We are both. And more. We are living in a time where women are redefining what power looks like, and it's about time. For generations, we were told to stay in a box, be graceful but not too opinionated, be smart but not intimidating, be beautiful but not too bold. Society placed these false limits on us as if brilliance and beauty couldn't exist in the same woman, as if we had to pick a lane. But let me tell you this, today's woman is done choosing. She's claiming everything that is hers. I've been in rooms where I've been praised for how I looked and ignored for what I had to say. I've also been in rooms where I was heard, valued, and respected, not because I dimmed my light, but because I owned every part of who I am. And let me tell you, that's where true power lies, in being whole, in not shrinking or splitting yourself to fit into outdated molds. Because beauty and brains together, that's not a contradiction. That's a superpower. Today's women are CEOs and scientists, mothers and musicians, coders and cover girls. We are breaking glass ceilings in boardrooms and raising the next generation at home. We're launching startups and walking fashion weeks. We're writing laws and rewriting the narrative about what strength, elegance, and leadership look like. We're telling the world that we don't have to dull our sparkle to be taken seriously. We don't have to tone down our ambition to be likable. We don't have to hide our femininity to be respected. We can wear lipstick and lead revolutions, because being a woman has never been a limitation. It's a source of power. For far too long, femininity was seen as soft, emotional, maybe even weak. But let's rethink that. Emotion is intelligence, compassion is strength, style is expression. And when you combine that with strategy, intellect, resilience, you get a force that cannot be ignored. And let's not forget, beauty isn't just about what you see, it's also about what you project. It's in the way you speak, the energy you carry, the ideas you bring to life. When a woman knows who she is, when she honors her mind and her magic, that's a beauty no camera can capture. There's a shift happening in the world. We're seeing women taking center stage, not because they're trying to be like men, but because they are fully showing up as themselves. We are no longer letting anyone reduce us to just our looks or just our labels. We're standing in our fullness. We're challenging the either-or mindset and embracing the yes and. Yes, I'm beautiful and I'm brilliant. Yes, I can slay a red carpet and I can slay in a board meeting. Yes, I care about my appearance and I care deeply about the world, about justice, about innovation. Power is evolving and women are leading the way. We are proving that intelligence isn't intimidating. It's inspiring. That beauty isn't frivolous. It's fierce. That when you embrace all sides of yourself, your grace, your grit, your glow shakeable. The future isn't female because it excludes anyone. The future is female because it includes every part of us, our hearts, our minds, our voices, our visions. So to every young girl who's been told she's too much, too pretty to be smart, too loud to be polite, too ambitious to be likable, let me say this: keep being too much. Keep being all of it. That's where your power lies. The world needs your light, your mind, your presence. Don't let anyone tell you that you have to be either or. Be everything. Because beauty and brains, together, they don't just make a woman powerful, they make her unforgettable. There's nothing wrong with showing up bold, dressed up, face beat, ready to turn heads. I love fashion, I adore makeup, I celebrate the power of style. Glamour is a language of expression, of confidence, of artistry. But here's the thing I've learned after walking in countless stilettos, under countless spotlights, across continents and careers: true brilliance doesn't come from your highlighter. It comes from your ideas. Let that sink in. Because in a world obsessed with how things look, it's so easy to forget the power of how things feel, how they resonate, how they impact. And when it comes to making a lasting impression, sparkle fades fast. But substance, that stays, that shapes, that transforms. Substance over sparkle always. I've been in industries where appearance is currency, where the surface often gets more attention than the soul. And yet every time I've walked away with real influence, real change, real respect, it wasn't because I looked good. It was because I thought well. Because I spoke truthfully. Because I brought something meaningful to the table. Don't get me wrong, shine bright. Be fabulous. Wear the red lip. Rock the look. But never let your appearance be louder than your voice. Never let style outshine substance. Because people may be drawn to your sparkle, but they stay for your strength. And that strength, it's built from knowing who you are, what you believe in, what you've overcome and what you're here to do. It's built from standing for something, from contributing, questioning, creating, from saying things that matter even when your voice shakes. Let your mind be your masterpiece. We live in a time where you can filter everything. But no filter in the world can replace depth. No designer gown can carry a shallow soul. No flawless selfie can substitute a fearless idea. Your greatest asset is not your image, it's your intellect, your vision, your voice. So ask yourself, what am I saying when I enter the room? What am I building when I speak? What legacy am I leaving behind when I show up? Because it's not enough to look the part. You have to live it, lead it, earn it. You can be captivating and clever, polished and powerful, but never let the outside be the only thing you nurture. Keep feeding your mind, keep questioning, keep evolving. I've sat across from world leaders, activists, entrepreneurs, artists. And I've learned that the most magnetic people aren't always the loudest or the flashiest. They're the ones who bring insight, who challenge norms, who ask real questions, who show up with substance. So often, especially as women, we feel pressured to be perfectly presented, to dazzle, to never show a crack. But here's the truth, the world doesn't need more perfection. It needs realness. It needs voices with volume and values. It needs creators, thinkers, builders, people who dare to bring more than a pretty face. You want to be unforgettable. Let your intelligence be louder than your lip gloss. Let your story outshine your shoes. Let your compassion be your most radiant glow. Because no matter how much you sparkle on the outside, the world will remember you for how you made them feel, what you stood for, and the difference you made. So yes, contour if you want to. Wear that bling. Celebrate your style. But let your true shine come from the fire in your soul and the strength of your ideas. Because the women who are changing the world right now, they aren't just showing up, they're showing substance. They're turning heads and changing minds. They're speaking truth and wearing heels. They're outsmarting the system and shining on covers. They're proving that you don't have to choose between sparkle and substance, you just have to prioritize what truly matters. So let your ideas be your brightest light. Let your passion be your most radiant feature. And let the world see that your most beautiful glow comes from within. Substance over sparkle always. Because that's the kind of beauty that lights up more than a room. It lights up the future. Let's talk about stereotypes, the ones that creep into conversations, assumptions, casting calls, boardrooms, and even into the way we sometimes view ourselves. There's one in particular that needs to be shattered, burned, and buried for good. The one that says, if you're attractive, you can't possibly be smart. That if you're intellectually formidable, you can't care about your looks. That somehow beauty and brains can't live in the same woman. To that I say, watch me. Watch us. Because women around the world are rewriting the narrative, and not with permission, but with purpose. We are breaking molds not because we want to prove ourselves to anyone, but because we're done playing small for the comfort of outdated expectations. It's time to challenge the stereotype and crush it. I've experienced this stereotype firsthand. As a model, actress, and beauty queen, the first have often walked into rooms where assumptions were made before I even spoke. The glance said it all. Pretty girl. Let's see if there's anything more. But here's the thing, there is more. There has always been more. And not just in me, in all of us. Women have always been multidimensional, but society keeps trying to flatten us into a single narrative. The polished girl, the nerdy girl, the pretty face, the strategist, the homemaker, the CEO, as if we have to pick one and stick to it. But the truth is, we contain multitudes. You can love science and lipstick. You can be fluent in code and couture. You can own a boardroom in heels and still rock a bare face at brunch. The point is, you decide who you are. Not society, not your resume, not the comment section. For too long, women have been told to tone it down, our looks, our ambitions, our intellect, even our voices. The world gets uncomfortable when we refuse to fit neatly into boxes. But that discomfort, that's where change begins, and change starts with us owning all of who we are. Let me be real, the reason this stereotype exists is because people are often afraid of complexity. They find comfort in categorizing people quickly, neatly, easily, but women are not here to be simplified. We are not puzzles to be solved, we are forces to be reckoned with. We can charm and challenge, we can dazzle and dominate, we can be elegant and engineer empires. And let's not confuse vanity with value. There is power in self-expression, in taking care of yourself inside and out, in walking into a room feeling good in your skin, and also knowing you can speak your mind with clarity and conviction. That's not shallow. That's sovereign. You don't have to sacrifice your femininity to be taken seriously. And you don't have to sacrifice your intelligence to be admired. The era of either or is over. We are living in the age of, and yes, I'm attractive, and I'm intellectually formidable. Yes, I love fashion. And I read voraciously, lead bleed projects, challenge ideas, ask difficult questions. Yes, I own my femininity. And I own every room I step into with my presence, not just my looks. We need to raise our daughters and sons to understand that power comes from authenticity, from embracing all sides of who you are. Let's teach them to look beyond the surface. Let's show them what it looks like when brilliance and beauty work hand in hand. Because when you show up fully, when you don't dim one side of yourself to make the other more acceptable, you give others permission to do the same. You expand what's possible. And that is leadership. That is impact. So challenge the stereotype not just with your words, but with how you live. Don't just break the mold, rebuild it. Create a world where no one has to choose between brains and beauty, strength and softness, intellect and allure. Because we are no longer asking for seats at the table, we're redesigning the table. We're saying yes to duality, yes to complexity, yes to being everything we are. So wear the dress, speak your mind, run the meeting, question the norm, break the ceiling. Challenge the stereotype until it no longer exists. And when they say you can't be both, smile and say, I already am. Let's get one thing clear, there's nothing wrong with charm. Charm is a gift. It opens doors, softens hearts, makes people lean in. But if you want to lead, truly lead, you have to bring more than a dazzling smile or a picture-perfect presence. You have to bring your mind. Leadership isn't about the mirror, it's about the mission. It's about vision, not vanity. You see, we live in a world that often celebrates surface over substance. A world obsessed with appearances, likes, filters, and image. And while presentation does matter, it should never come at the cost of purpose. Because no matter how good you look, people will eventually look beyond the surface and they will listen to what you have to say, how you say it, and what you stand for. That's where real leadership begins. It begins in the clarity of your thoughts, in the courage of your convictions, in the strength of your values, and in the consistency of your actions, even when no one's watching. I've walked red carpets, I've sat in business meetings, I've spoken at global summits. And I've learned that what commands the most respect, what truly leads, is not the gloss, not the glamour, but the gravity of your voice and the integrity behind your decisions. Leadership is not about being followed because you're admired, it's about being trusted because you're aligned. And that kind of leadership doesn't come from the mirror, it comes from the mind. From the willingness to think deeply, speak honestly, and act bravely even when it's uncomfortable. Yes, you can have style, yes, you can have presence, but when you enter a room, don't just be the person who turns heads. Be the one who turns minds. The one who sparks conversations, not just compliments. The one who raises the bar, not just eyebrows. Let your leadership be rooted in substance. Let your voice carry weight. Let your decisions reflect vision, not just image. Because at the end of the day, the mirror reflects your face, but your mind reflects your future. Let's be honest, there's a certain pressure, especially for women, to lead with charm. We're often expected to be agreeable, likable, pleasing, but leadership isn't always pretty. Sometimes it's tough, direct, even unpopular. Sometimes it means saying no, drawing boundaries, disrupting the status quo. And that's okay. Because leadership is not about being liked by everyone. It's about doing what's right, not what's easy. It takes courage to lead with your mind, to speak truth, to stand your ground, to hold a vision that others can't see yet. But that's the kind of leadership the world needs more of, especially from women. We don't need more leaders who look the part. We need more leaders who own the part. So nurture your intellect, honor your ideas, feed your curiosity, because your greatest tool is not what you wear, it's how you think. A true leader doesn't rely on charm to carry the message. She lets the message carry itself, powered by conviction, sharpened by clarity, and delivered with compassion. And remember, charm may win you applause, but courage wins you loyalty. Charisma may light up a moment, but consistency builds a legacy. I'm not saying don't care about how you present yourself, do. Show up with pride in how you look. But don't stop there. Show up with pride in what you know, what you believe, and how you lead. Let your reflection in the mirror be matched by the reflection in your thoughts. Let your outer presence be matched by your inner purpose. Because charm might start the conversation, but it's your mind that will finish it. With grace, with power, with real influence. So the next time you prepare to show up, whether it's for an interview, a pitch, a performance, or a pivotal moment, don't just ask yourself how you look. Ask yourself, what do I stand for? What do I want to change? What will I leave behind? Because that's the stuff that doesn't fade. That's what shapes the world, that's what leads. So yes, smile, shine, step up with confidence. But lead not with your mirror, lead with your mind. Because the world needs more thoughtful leaders, more courageous voices, and more women who lead from the inside out. Take care and goodbye.